everybody, to another podcast on the go. And today we're gonna jump into a call with representatives from Cebu Foundation, AltMobility PH, and BTS Plus Group. And we're gonna be discussing the Philippine situation on biking and is Cebu ready for biking?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Again, I am my name here is Iggy Go. That's my nickname. My full name is Vernon Joseph Go. I am a since we're getting to know each other first, a content creator, writer, blogger. I have a column every Tuesday, like today, investing on the go, or a Freeman, which is under Philstar Group. It's a business section. My blog is mostly business and finance related, with some personal and some advocacy stuff there as well. And I also have, of course, as a content creator, you have video and you have audio channels as well. So from my understanding, during this health crisis, uh, biking has become an alternative transportation option, because of course, let's just say it, there was no transportation plan. Uh, and and of course, this is just from my observation here in Cebu, but from other group chats and online groups as well, uh, it's not just limited to Cebu, and in other places, especially the Metro Manila area is also experiencing some mobility and transportation issues or struggles, especially for the masa or the and even the middle class workers, and this also includes the entrepreneurs. So we have representatives from two groups, so all AltMobility PH and BTS Plus. We'll get to that later. AltMobility PH is an active transportation group in Metro Manila, represented by Ms.Keisha Mayuga. So perhaps we can start with Ms.Keisha. Share about the group and its advocacy and what has it has done in the past, and and what the group has been doing in this health crisis.
Thank you so much for the introduction and thank you for having me here. Again, I'm Keisha Mayuga from AltMobility PH. We're a group of policy advocates that are passionate about making transport sustainable and inclusive. So this is for all sorts of transport, public transport and active transport. That's mostly what we focus on. So we promote sensible and humane transport policies, which creates a system that's safe, accessible, and inclusive, dignified, and sustainable. So what Alt Mobility PH has done so far is the filing of the Magna Carta of commuters in um, the Senate and in the House of Reps. And we also organize transport related fora and have a lot of infographics on transport data because that was previously not available, or it's always very vehicle centric. So what we plan to promote really is better transport for all. And as our saying goes, it's really move people, not cars. So now we're focusing a lot more on active transport in the time of COVID because it's one of the best ways really to travel and one of the best ways also to keep the virus from spreading. So I'm they just declared again MECQ here in Metro Manila. So everyone's again struggling. And so the call has been more urgent than ever to really try and promote and really put up infrastructure to support active transportation because not a lot of our frontliners and not a lot of our essential workers have their own private vehicles. And we just want to illustrate also as Alt Mobility PH that it's possible to create infrastructure right away through pop-up bike lanes, for example, and cement them literally into plans that will be there even beyond the pandemic. So yeah, um, that's it. We're Alt Mobility PH.
So what covers active mobility? Is it just that for bikes, or does it include scooters or electric alternatives, or even skateboards?
Yeah, active transport is basically anything that's technically there are a lot of definitions, but you can include there the e-scooters, you can include there the bikes. Actually, even walking is active transport because you're
Hmm.
being active as you walk. So basically, any form of transport that is clean, green, and um, yeah, usually not motorized usually. So yeah, e-scooters are part of it, and skateboards and roller skates, and yeah, all sorts.
Thank you for that. So far, what has been happening in Metro Manila, aside from the policies and the infographics? Like I've seen in the news, like once GCQ was declared, and there were a lot of people who were I think it was in, correct me if I'm wrong, it was in, I think, somewhere in EDSA, maybe, that there was like an incident where people, of course, people were trying to be active, and then that became like somehow viral. Is there do you have like a hard suggestion for new normal, like active, like protocols of sorts, or that's already covered with the infographics that you have mentioned?
Well, there are actually a lot of groups. It's not just
Okay.
AltMobility PH, but there are a lot of groups that are really pushing for the promotion of active transport, especially traveling now during ECQ, GCQ, MECQ, all types of CQ. um, so a lot of groups have been really pushing for putting up pop-up bike lanes because as we entered into ECQ, more and more people started biking because the only options that they had before was either to walk or take a private vehicle, and not everyone owned a private vehicle. So their next best choice was really to bike. So there really was a spike in cycling here in Metro Manila. And so advocates and also some LGUs responded by putting up pop-up bike lanes. So a lot of them haven't been perfect, but at least there are efforts to create such pop-up bike lanes, like the one in EDSA. That's actually by it was a it was a it was started by a group called EDSA Evolution, which I'm also part of, and it was a 1 day exercise to really show that you can do it in EDSA. And because of that initiative, a month later, MMDA decided to paint bike lanes on
Mhm.
EDSA. So, the fight might be long, but it's doing something. So hopefully, in Metro Cebu, it could be something faster when everyone collaborates. So hoping that everyone really gets on board because putting up bike lanes isn't really a hard thing. It can be done within days and weeks. Yeah.
Okay. So now we can proceed with the BTS Plus groups, which means Baktas, Tindak Society Plus, one of the biking advocate group in Cebu City, uh, represented by Mr. Darrell Carabio, Darren Coyoca, and Mark Mendoza. So, uh, can you guys share a similar thing, like what has the group done in the past, and what has the group been doing in the health crisis so far. And let me just say that the throw a question ahead. Some Why BTS Plus? So I'm sure there are K-pop fans who may or who may disagree with that acronym, but okay, let's just throw the question out there.
Okay. Good morning, Iggy, Keisha. Good morning, Darren and Ellie. Morning. To answer first your last question, why BTS Plus? Originally it was just BTS, but yeah, there may be K-pop fans out there who might bash us, so we added the plus. Anyway, BTS, Baktas. B means Baktas, and then for walking. T for Tindak means pedaling, and then society. And then we also wanted to talk about other things, so we decided to add the plus. We want to talk about trees, we want to talk about dogs, cats, just about everything. So that's what the plus represents. And then uh, Mark is currently having a internet connection problem. But anyway, we're all architects in this group. It's just for now. There's just three of us. Darren included. We're also planners, and then we were formed um, during the start of the quarantine period around March, because we noticed that like what Kisha mentioned earlier, that there was a surge of cyclists because there were no options, and then we just wanted to make noise in social media to make papansin. And we decided to make an imaginary cycling network. Um, it's a network of bike lanes for Cebu City, which connects the different busy areas within the city. It also has further connections to other cities like Talisay and Mandaue. And then other things that we've done recently, we've been presenting this network to LGUs, the Tri Cities. We even presented it to AltMobility PH, with Keisha, and then we also presented it to the private sector, private developers here in Cebu, Ayala, SM, Robinson's Land, and among many others. And then, um, yeah, I think that's it for me. Darren, do you have anything else to add?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay,
Basically, we have the same.
yeah, we're a bit shy pa.
As mentioned by Ellie, for Cebu situation, as architects, let me just ask if, of course, separate but related profession is urban planning, but I'm not sure if any of you are urban planners. But what do you think of current inf infrastructure in Cebu, Cebu City specifically, since that's where you're based?
Mm. Currently, common misconception about our roads is that it's too narrow to accommodate the bike lanes, but that's not really the case. It's a matter of prioritization. If you prioritize the pedestrians and the bike lanes are really possible for our streets. Fortunately enough, I'm a graduate of Masters in Urban Planning in San Carlos, and then Darren is also an environmental planner. So I think we're in a good position to say that it is possible here in Cebu. We've been identified with uh, the planning departments of the different LGUs on where these possible bike networks is going to be located. And then they've also cross-checked it with their future plans like the BRT. So we've
What is
already
that?
anticipated. BRT means bus
Ah,
rapid
okay.
transport. It goes through and Bacalso, and then to Osmeña Boulevard in Fuente, and then to all the way up to Capitol, and then Iscario, and then left turn to Talamban. So they decided not to include that for the bike networks, but around that area, around that route, they've already identified also where to put the bike lane. So yeah, I think it's really possible. It's just a matter of prioritization and really helping out each other on even the planning officers here in Cebu, um, they they tell us that they're not really experts in terms of doing bike networks. That's why we need different help from the LGU, the private sector, and others. So yeah, it's possible.
So, but so far, uh, what are the obstacles that you've faced uh, as you're going through the process of reaching out and collaborating?
Mm, One good thing that the COVID presented to us is that the possibility of putting up bike lanes really opened up, because before, if you present a bike network to LGUs, it's just going to be scrapped. But now they're really open to it because it's everywhere. It's all over the
They
world.
have
The
no
surge of
choice.
cyclists, yes, the surge of
Yeah.
cyclists is just really, really significant. An example here is in Ayala, in a mall.
Yeah.
Their sidewalks are getting eaten up by bikes, since there
Mm.
was no parking. This was way back in June. There was a interim GCQ for Cebu City, and then it went back to ECQ. So during that GCQ period, bikes were really all over the place. So what the management decided was to add bike parking, and now it's full again. So they're trying to add more.
Mm.
So that's it. The challenges may have um, sort of went down a bit, but there are still challenges.
But the bike lanes so far are limited to the private plan development areas of let's say like the Ayala group or Cebu City.
Ayala is correct. Um, for the Ayala group, I think I can share that they're also open to putting up their bike lanes. Even way before the
Yes,
COVID
yes.
was, but they were like an island. They cannot connect to the public roads. So
Mm.
now, with the help of the LGU, with their plans, proposed plans of bike networks, it's now more feasible for Ayala to put up their bike lanes na. So it's a network na. It's a collaboration between the public and private sector already.
Let's just say, what is your opinion on? I think around June when the surge happened, or was it before? Was it April? I'm not sure. There was supposedly like a preview that Cebu City will be um, registering the bikes.
Mm.
What is your view on that?
Uh, for the bike registration, it's a really controversial. I think we should be talking about it right now, because we have to. I think we have to focus on the bike infrastructure first, um, and it's a topic widely discussed all over the world, and there seems to be it's a again it's a controversial one. Um, I don't know, but for me personally, I'm not into it. Should if there should be a registration of bikes, it should be voluntary. It shouldn't be compulsory. That's my personal stand on the issue.
Does Keisha have a say or
Yes,
opinion? Because
Keisha.
since she's shaking
Yeah.
her head.
Yeah. Um, Generally, I'm also not really for bicycle registration, especially in our context, because it's going to be difficult for cyclists, and it's already difficult for them as it is. So, if you require bike registration, there must be a proper rationale, which we really haven't seen. I mean, Japan has it, and it's understandable because owning a bike for them is like owning a car for them. For us, that's what it's like to own a bike in their terms. But in our context, I don't think it's necessary. Actually, a lot of countries around the world um, also don't need bike registration. I mean, you also have to question what the purpose of it is, because otherwise, we can just use. that brain power and that budget to create bike lanes instead, like what Daryl mentioned earlier. So yeah, for now, I don't think we're ready for bike registration. Let's just put all of our energy to make proper infrastructure and yeah, for bikes instead.
So let's say I'll be the devil's advocate. No, for what if, let's say, the rationale, or it's, let's say, for safety. Uh, since I'm not sure. Let's say, since, for, let's say, for motorcycles, the helmets are also being, I think, registered or certified or something. So is it the same for bike, for biking helmets, or protective gear for that matter?
Okay. First. Okay. I think that should be it should be part now on the policy. For bike safety, it should be part on the policy of the LGUs to whether they require it or not. But again, for the registration, it should be well discussed first. Not as of this moment, not yet. But for the bike safety, I think we're all naman for safety, and I think if we require um, the helmets, the reflective, or the lights, I think it's something that will be well received by the public naman siguro. Siya.
Um, yeah, so bike registration is different from the bike helmet. So we're not ready for registration, but for the bike helmet, I agree. It's really for safety. But on the question of requiring it, because a lot of our cyclists here, at least in Metro Manila, the bikes that they use aren't even theirs, or they need to, they're not, um, they can't buy helmets. So if for me, if an LGU is going to require helmets, at least give some kind of subsidy or give some kind of something so that people can wear helmets. Like,
Or like a
if you
standard?
want, yes, exactly. So one of the proposals here in one of the LGUs was that if you're not wearing a bike helmet, they're gonna charge you 1,000, and that's more than a bike helmet already. It also has to be well thought out. We're all for safety, but we also should think about um, the demographic of our cyclists. So yeah, needs to be thought out.
For bike lanes, is it just limited, or should it just be limited to bikes? Since we've mentioned earlier about active mobility, so what about the scooters? I think there's a scooter group, in e-scooter group in Cebu as well, in Cebu City, and especially the skateboarders. So can they use the bike lanes as well, or should it not be called bike lanes, but or something else?
Well, um, just to make it easier for everyone, we do just call it bike lanes because otherwise it would be active mobility lanes, which isn't as
Quite long.
catchy. But yes, but it's understood, at least in our context, that bike lanes is also for active mobility. Now, I understand that some e scooters might be going really fast. So, if there are bike lanes being implemented, there should also be rules on who gets to be in it. So, bikes obviously can be in it. Skateboards and non motorized transport can be in it, as long as they're not doing tricks on the on the bike lane. And e-mobility devices like e-scooters, they can be in it as long as they are going as fast as the bikes, which is around 30 kilometers per hour. So any faster than that, you should not be in the bike lane. So
Mhm.
that's how we've been going about it here in Metro Manila, at least. That's how we recommend to LGUs.
Yes. Another possible term would be micro mobility lanes. And then, yeah, I agree with Kisha on the speed limits. These e-scooters may be too fast for those pedal-powered bikes, and there may be a conflict. So it's better safe. Yeah,
And I think electric bikes are also included in this now. From what I've been hearing or reading and seeing, in the Metro Cebu area, officially, I think Mandaue City has adapted the bike lane. What are your thoughts on that?
currently, yeah, you're right. Mandaue is leading the Tri-Cities in terms of planning and implementation for these bike lanes. And then yesterday, I even used part of these bike lanes. And then I'm currently in contact with someone from their planning office. And then um, for Lapu-Lapu, there's also a plan of a network, the circumferential road. They're planning of putting up lanes there, but they're still trying to coordinate with DPWH on who's going to paint it. And then for Cebu City, there's a loop already. There was already an official statement from the planning office, even mentioning the which roads these bike lanes go. So yeah, I think it's Mandawi leading the way. And then just to add, the paint they're currently using is not really the ones for the road. It's just really for basically it's a pop up bike lane pack. And then they're already looking into budget allocation this year for next year na, to improve these bike lanes. So once they finalize their plans, once they maybe they can do even better bike lanes by then with the barriers and all.
You've been hearing anything from the like outside the Tri Cities area or any initiatives on their end?
Um, the Now City is also. I think they're crafting an ordinance, or they already have the ordinance, but they haven't put up the bike lanes yet. Um, for other Talisay has also marked their a portion of the national highway. I just don't know who painted it, whether DPWH or the LGU. It's blue. The lines are blue, and then for other municipalities, Cordova is also looking into where to put their bike lanes, but yeah, the concern is still that their roads are too narrow like that. So maybe they just need a bit more of consultation. So yeah, all over Metro Cebu, it's really a talk. Since I had this idea because there was a meeting with the LGUs of Metro Cebu, and then they shared their bike update. This was during the quarantine period. So everyone is trying to. They're all positive of having a bike lane, but it's a matter of pressing it really. Just making follow ups, and then just more coordinations and consultations to really make these bike lanes a reality.
You mentioned, Daryl, that you've coordinated with AltMobility PH. So I'm not sure if if that's Keisha who can answer, but what do you think of this Metro Cebu situation? Or I'm not sure what has been shared to you so far or what you know, but can you share your views
Yeah,
as an outsider?
I saw the proposal from BTS Plus, and we absolutely loved it. We were even talking about it after we met up with BTS Plus on the reimagining um, the bike lanes in Metro Cebu and connecting three cities. And I think it's a great way also to think about, planning bike lanes, not just within one city, but to connect different cities. And I think that's a great next step for Metro Cebu, and hopefully it will expand. So, Metro Cebu really has a lot of potential to create these networks to make bike lanes possible, especially now during COVID. It's the best time, sadly, but it's the best time really to push for active transport because a lot of frontliners get to work through biking. So for the next steps, we're actually going to be conducting workshops with the different LGUs in Metro Cebu. Um, so AltMobility PH will be giving technical workshops on how they can get started, on why bike lanes are necessary, and how they can actually practically do it at the LGU level. Because we've been having efforts here in Metro Manila, but we also want the rest of the Philippines to expand their promotion of active transport. And from what we've heard from BTS Plus, Metro Cebu really has great potential to create um, a nice and cohesive bike network. So we're hoping through the coming events, through the Metro Cebu Bike Workshop and the webinar on August 10, 11, 17, um, that it will really start and continue on from there for all of the LGUs in Metro Cebu.
This is just targeted to the Metro Cebu area, but not necessarily like the whole the whole Cebu province.
Um, Not yet, but the Cebu province will also be attending
Present.
there.
Okay.
Attending, we've invited them as well. So hoping that it would even go to different provinces, not just Cebu, and hoping that it would also get to some of our policymakers in Metro Manila. So and everywhere.
Just not yet open to the public, or just for the
Um,
LGUs.
The workshop will be specific to the LGUs because we'll be having consultations with them.
Okay.
But we'll be live streaming it also for people who would be interested. So if they want to learn more, or if there are LGUs that want to start a bike lane um, in their locality, we're very open to collaborating with them. And so the workshop will be parts of the workshop will be live streamed for any interested LGUs to participate in. Most likely on Facebook, but we'll also try posting in different platforms so that it can reach as many people as possible. Because bike lanes, or the creation of bike lanes, it's a good idea, but people just don't know how to do it. So it's best if we can help as much as we can in our country. It will be, and the webinar on August 10th will be live streamed through the Mega Cebu Facebook page.
Okay.
Hoping that our future plans and collaborations are going to reach the people who need to hear these for better implementation. And I think this is the best way to make our cities more livable and sustainable in terms of transportation. Yeah. Sure.
Um, we're hoping that this is really just the beginning of a great bike and cycling culture in the Philippines. And starting with the metro cities is a great way to promote it to the rest of the Philippines. So I'm very excited for to see what can happen, and we're hoping that through these collaborations, we get everyone cycling. So thank you.
Actually, we're just looking forward for the bike lanes to be really supported by the LGUs. That is the top priority among that we are looking into, that we garner their support for us, for all the maybe the for the community to benefit it properly, and less I don't know, maybe less negativity on the initiative, because we are seeing a lot of what do you call this one, online posts that it can't be done, the road issues, infrastructure issues. But if we really need to have our priorities uh, properly taken or considered, then it's a workable project or initiative as well. That's all.
Guys, thank you for joining, and also Vernon, thank you for doing this for us. So hopefully this initiative that we will be doing, Darrell and also the AltMobilityPH should be a good help for Metro Cebu LGU, because the problem now is really transportation. And when we talk about transportation and mobility, it's not just limited to cars. I've been a commuter for the last 3 years, and I decided to commute because I need to experience myself. No, there is really difference between knowing and experiencing it. So knowing that commuting is difficult is different from experiencing commuting. So I have a motorbike, but I decided not to use it because I want to. Before it was once a week just to experience the plight of being a commuter in Metro Cebu. How much I'm sure it will be the same in Metro Manila. So, but in Metro Cebu, commuting is really difficult. It's somewhat, it's a 50-50 if you go outside, and it's a battle of survival. No? And if you want, because I'm from Consolacion, if you're outside Cebu City, much more difficult. And right now, with jeepneys been phased out for the moment, temporarily, and with no specific date will they be returning. During the GCQ time, when Cebu City was declared GCQ time, my problem was really on the number one, transportation route. Second is the fare, because I was familiar with Park Mall to SM City Cebu, which is just 10 pesos. But no, not 10 pesos, just 8 pesos. But with jeepney out, my fare was around 25 pesos. So for me, I'm glad because I can afford it. But how about those people who have 50 pesos daily allowance? So that would be a problem for them. So if they have the same situation as mine, their 50 pesos is just back and forth transportation. How about their meal? So the purpose of really providing bike lanes is to provide people options, to give people options, not to force them to go. We have public transportation, we have bus, so your option is just bus aside from walking. So either you take bus or you walk. That's the option. But if we provide another option such as biking, and that option is protecting them, making them protecting and making them feel safe, would be a good opportunity, especially for Cebuano, looking at it that there is an increased number of biking. So hopefully the local government units are leaders to our capability building program, Cebu Foundation this August and August 11 and August 17. And by the way, this is in partnership and sponsored by the Dutch Cycling Embassy, the Netherlands Embassy. So, and as you know, the Dutch Cycling Embassy is one of the world-renowned biking organization, not just in the Netherlands or in Europe, but in the entire world. There are models, best models that we can look up into. And to think of it, it's because of their maybe their climate or it's their landscape. No, in Netherlands, been there for the last year, and I saw how narrow the road is. But most of their people are really into biking. Their population of bikes is more than their own population themselves. So it's really started with the desire and with the passion. How can we improve the mindset of mobility that is not just vehicle centric or it's not just car centric, but it's really people centric? And how can we provide people options and making transportation or even mobility multimodal? So that is the objective of this uh, program or even the capability program that we are providing to the LGUs. And this is not just limited to the local government LGUs. We are also inviting real estate developers, land developers in Cebu, and malls like SM Seaside, SM Consolacion, SM Cebu City, and also Ayala malls. No? So all the property managers will be invited to this webinar, and hopefully they can join us on the online workshop. So with this, there would be no reason for LG to come up with a plan because we help them and assist them in coming up with a plan. And even not just limited to the plan, we also give them an idea how much would it cost for you to have the bike lane and necessary infrastructure related to bike lanes. And again, it's not just the local government unit. There is also private sector. We have the Ayala who is now increasing their bike racks, which is a good initiative from the Ayala management, and also planning to come up their own bike lanes in the future. But as Daryl mentioned, that's the problem, the connection from the Ayala property outside to the LGU. So hopefully this will be addressed. We can see simple accomplishment already. It's not simple, but a big accomplishment already. We have Talisay City already doing their bike lanes with color blue. Then we have the Now City with the ordinance themselves, with no bike lanes yet, but they have the ordinance. But at least their bikers are protected. But they are still coming up with a plan. So this webinar and the cycling workshop will somewhat consolidate everything, and we'll launch it at the same time, especially this time under the new normal. We really need this. We need because I always believe a bikeable city is a livable city. So if we see people biking and they are not just biking, but they also feel that they are safe, and for me that makes a city livable, especially Cebu City, which is known nationally as the oldest city in the Philippines. So once we will also start biking, that is also a good class factor, not just saving people, but also saving what is left, the culture, the heritage, and even the infrastructure that is left for Cebu City. So, Vernon, a biker or a skateboarder?
I'm a walker. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm one of those na walang childhood. I actually don't know how to bike. I've attempted before. I have attempted with bad results. But of course, I think now I have no choice at this point. Maybe But
So
as what
at this-
Keisha said,
yes.
those are alternatives. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also the value of walking and the importance of developing our sidewalk should be also considered. Okay, walking is really the most basic mobility. And if we talk about mobility, so it's really the cheapest and the most basic, no, mobility medium, walking. So if there is any no question from the participants or guests, thank you guys for joining.
I think that's about it for this session. Let me know if you have any suggestion topics, for example. Do comment and share this to people who are interested in it, maybe. And let me know. And this will be available in various platforms as usual, in YouTube, in Facebook, in Anchor, and Spotify. So thank you so much for watching. See you next time.